Hello, Tyler. How are you on this lovely Tuesday?
Good day. How are you?
Good. We're talking about investments today.
hmm Investments versus buying. There's a
hmm
difference. Yeah,
hmm
it's
And
true.
not investments in the stock market,
Yeah, no, we're not. We're steering clear of those kind of investments. Yeah.
but investments in a company or a business.
hmm
So a lot of times people look at expenses as just like something that takes away from the value or the capital of their company. They don't look at it as, a long-term benefit to the organization. And it can be hard because sometimes you do have straight up expenses like taxes. That's
Yeah.
not an investment in your company. That's
Yeah,
just an
not really.
expense.
Yep, totally.
But then there are things that are investments. So when you think about communicating the difference between an investment versus just buying something or an expense, I have a couple questions for you. So
Yeah.
why is it important to view certain kinds of spending as an investment versus an expense?
These are great. These are great because I oftentimes don't get the thing that we're going to talk about until right before, and I just am given a topic and no questions. So these are awesome. Um, Honestly, I feel like there's a couple of different answers to it. One is sometimes it's easier to like. I'm a firm believer in you only have a certain amount of like high quality decisions that you can make, whether that's in a day, in an hour, in a month, whatever it may be. And so sometimes you just need little like things around all the decisions to help you make that decision. And so for me, as someone that looks like long-term, longer-term vision, where we're going, how do you get there, like a lot of that type of thing, it's easier for me to like invest or spend money into something that is going to, pay for itself over time. And so that can be like software choices, that can be people hiring choices, that could be buildings, that could be, retreats with a team, that could be, like all sorts of different things. It's easier to make those types of decisions. So that's one where you'd want to try to differentiate those or kind of understand that. The other is just the benefit of it too. It's just
Mhm.
like clearly like the investment versus the expense. It's almost kind of like that buyer versus owner type of mentality. And if you've ever bought and sold a house, you go, wait a second, like if you made money on that house or you broke even on that house, you're like, I lived for free for X amount of years I lived there, versus a renter, they're sending a rent check every month, and they're it's a cost to them, and that's okay. Like there's nothing wrong or right about either of them. But if you have an ownership type of a mentality and you want to see your money used and help you progress towards something you're trying to achieve, then kind of understanding the difference between those investment decisions versus just buying or purchasing type decisions or expense decisions is important.
Absolutely. And oftentimes when I hear you speak about things like this, you do talk about the ownership versus renting mentality. But are there any other ways of positioning an investment that, oftentimes people aren't a solo decider for how a company's money gets spent. They have to get approval on it, or they have to get buy-in from other members of their team. So what are some of the ways that a leader or a business owner can present a purchase or an expense in a way that shows it's an investment and not just something that costs money?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think some of those that you can show it are really thinking about, I'm, wanting to hire this person, or I want to buy this thing, or I want to go to this event, or I want to, whatever that might be. And then, you're really trying to sell it. Every person's a salesperson. And so you're trying to then justify, why is it good that we'd hire this teammate or this team member? Or why is it good that I would go to this event? Or why is it good that I'd buy this software or this new asset to the company or whatnot? And really just kind of essentially you're trying to back it up, because oftentimes when you go through that exercise, you'll answer your own question of either I need it or I don't need it, or I want, it's a want versus need kind of deal. But I think, oftentimes just like practical example wise, we do this a lot with people. And so many business owners kind of in my seat, at least, are more along the lines of as little amount of employees as possible and as many contractors as possible, because then those contractors can ebb and flow with your team or with your revenue and your workload and stuff, which is great. And there's nothing against that. And we do some of that as well. And that's really helpful. But I would say for us, as far as building a long-term company that stands on its own, it's not just the Tyler show like it once was. You have to have people that can carry things, and you have to be able to empower them and pass responsibility and those types of things. And you can't really do those with contractors. And so I think one of the things that we've done when it comes to hiring people is how we've justified that is how are we investing in making it to whatever that next milestone or level or tier, or whatever you want to say, growing our business. And it's about like investing in the person. And I think, like that's the hiring decision. And then ongoing, how are you, like we did a kind of this mini retreat with our revenue team. And there's 5 of us now on the revenue team. And we we were doing a workshop in a central spot and we were like, hey, let's get everybody else there too. And one of the reasons why it was really easy for me to, invest in that was it's investing in people, it's investing in community, it's investing with, FaceTime, sorry, that's not the app, but the actual interaction when you're face to face with someone. And that I believe is a longer term investment in building those relationships so that you can continue to move forward as a company. And it's not just looking at just the strictly transaction dollar amount of it. And it's more so looking at, well, what is it going to get you longer term? So I know that one's a little bit harder because it's hard to go, hey, what's my return on that investment? Whatever, pay X, a couple $100 for a plane ticket. Well, am I going to get that back? Well, that's going to be really hard to measure. But I think if you have that investment type of a mentality, the more you're willing to invest in people and helping build them up, one, it's maybe more rewarding as an owner, but two, yes, the answer is yes, you will get a return on the investment when you're investing in people, if they're the right people. So
Yeah,
I don't know, does that help?
It does. And I know even like when we've talked about it before, it's not even just, your profitability or your, how much return can you get on this, on the bottom line, but it can even go back to like your employee retention and employee engagement, because an engaged employee that feels like attached to an organization is going to do better work than somebody who doesn't feel that way. And also you'll have a lower turnover on some of those things. You'll or lower employee churn. So kind of helps keep costs down that way.
Yep. I would say it's the same for clients too, as far as like from our seat serving clients when we're investing in that relationship. And so that can be as much as, or as little as, hey, let me throw out these cool ideas that maybe you guys could do. And okay, great, run with them. That's fine. And it's free strategy. Or it could be, hey, we're just going to cover their hosting for this first month or this first year because that's the right thing to do. Or what, I mean, like there's all those types of things, but you're investing in that relationship to carry that relationship on versus just expecting it's transactional. They have to pay for everything. Don't have any investment in that. That's fine. Some agencies do that. That's totally fine. We just have chosen a little bit of a different route. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And this next question kind of goes along with what you were just saying. How do you connect spending with goals? But I even think more than that, vision. Yeah,
it's really funny. I feel like, so I run a mastermind group with a bunch of agency owners, and this question I feel like honestly comes up, not the exact question, but comes up a lot because I actually respond with it. And a lot of times it's about hiring staff, and it's about, should I buy this or should I buy that? Or should I, grow this team, or when do I hire? Who do I hire first? And all those types of things. And, I just think of often to my answer to it, it's, well, where do you want to go? Like, where is it that what are you trying to build? What are you trying to accomplish? Like, what did you set out to go do? And, some agencies, it's, well, I'm there. Like, I don't want to hire. I'm good with 5 people and we're, whatever, capped at $500,000, whatever the thing is. Okay, great. Then you probably don't need to go hire another person. Like, why would you hire that person then? Like, what is that? What's the purpose of it then? If you're fine with the amount of employees and you love the responsibility you have, you don't want to give any of away. Versus the other side of it of like, yeah, I want to build a sales organization within my company, and I want to go and we want to make $10 million in 5 years, and we only make $1 million now, or something like that. Well, it's kind of a little bit of an easier decision to go, yeah, I should hire a salesperson, because you're probably as an owner not going to be able to sell quite that much and run a whole business. And so it's just easier to answer those types of questions when you're talking about connecting it to like where you're wanting to go, or like your overall kind of vision.
I really like that. And then the last question, and this is, I guess, more specific to you. What are some of the key investments that you've made that have helped supported Lone First Vision?
Yeah, it's really funny because, I mean, anybody that runs an agency, at least like ours, is going to understand that basically our only expenses are people and software. And so honestly, I feel like one of the main things that we've invested in is people. And I think 2 things. One is the investment of obviously resources. So, money that we make, revenue we make, and turn around and paying people with that money. There's ways that you can invest in, I guess, someone with maybe with more experience or better fit, that might cost a little bit more versus the opposite. And I've chosen that route, where I've cared a lot more about people and culture fit than I have about skill set fit. I've been really fortunate and lucky, I would say, in finding people that are good culture fit and really, really talented and really skilled. So that's one of the areas that we've invested in around people. I would say the second area we invest around people is the actual person. So when they work here, how are we making sure that I feel like my job as the owner and kind of their, supervisor of many people is, whether they work here for 3 months, 3 years, 30 years, I want them to leave at the end of that time, whenever that is. I want them to be way better of a human and way more skilled than when they started. So that's my goal. And so that means that I need to then invest in those people to, whether it's time that they would need to learn something, or it's new skills they're trying to develop, or it's more, people skills that they want, or it's whatever that thing is, but it's you're investing in the people. So that's the two things. One is the person, who they are, building them up. The other is just obviously the expenses of hiring the people and making sure they get paid and have a standard of living and all those types of things. So people's one. I would say the other, from like an investment standpoint, has been, honestly, it's been me, which is weird to say as I'm saying it out loud, but it's like investing in myself as far as like, hey, I need to stay ahead. Like I have to, my job's changed every 3 to 6 months for the last 6 years because I've grown a business and I hired new people and we've tried to capture new market shares and all those types of things. And so I have to stay ahead of that. And so whether that's, subscriptions to Audible, it's conferences, it's mentors, it's, networks of people that you have to kind of pay to be a part of. I think that's super important. And I'd like to say it's paid off. I'm sure some of it's a little bit still on the fence and depends on who you ask, but I'd like to say it's paid off for me. But yeah, I'd say those are the two main things: is the people and having like a strict filter of people who we choose to work here and kind of keeping that, making sure that they match the values that we have. And then the other one is investing in myself to make sure that, I'm trying to be the best leader I can, best person I can, all those types of things.
I love that. Super good feedback.
Yeah.
This was, well, when we talk about investing in expenses, I don't always get very excited about it. Not my jam, but This is a really great conversation. I really appreciated your insights.
Absolutely. Thanks for asking great questions.
See you next week.
All right. See you.